The first thing you'll want to do to get started with Maven is to go to the maven.apache.org website. On the left-hand side of the main page, you'll see a link that says Download. If you click on that link, you'll be taken to the download page. At the time of recording this, Maven 2.1.0 was the current version. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's several different versions of the distribution that you can download. There's a zip file and a tar.gz file and a tar.bz2 version. If you select one of those, you can download the distribution and unzip it to your operating system. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's installation instructions down here that tell you exactly what you need to do to unzip the archive and to put it onto your machine. There's a Windows 2000/XP installation instructions, and there's a Unix-based operating system set of instructions. So you can go ahead and follow those instructions and install the distribution on your machine. Note, if you scroll up just a little bit here, you'll see there's a set of system requirements that says you need to at least have JDK 1.4 or above. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'll go ahead and use JDK 1.6. In order to verify the installation after you followed the steps on the maven.apache.org website, you can go to a command prompt and you can run mvn -- version. If you're running on Windows, you may have to type mvn.bat, but if you're running on Linux/Unix or on Cygwin running on top of Windows, which is Cygwin is a Unix installation, essentially it's a Unix emulator that runs on top of Windows, you can just type mvn. If you do mvn -- version, you'll see that it gives you a little bit of output here that shows you the version number for Maven, the version number for Java, and some information about the operating system that you're running. The next thing that we'll want to do is to execute mvn archetype : generate. The portion before that colon represents what's called a Maven plugin, and the portion after the colon represents a Maven goal. We'll revisit this in a future video, but the important thing to note is at this point is the effect of this command, which is to launch a project generator, which will generate a project based on a template. So if we execute this command, you'll see that it will give you some output here, and if I scroll up just a little bit, you'll see that the first thing it's asking us to do is to choose an archetype. What an archetype is a project template. Essentially, it's a template for how we want Maven to generate the structure of our project for us. We'll go ahead and use the default here, which is number 15, which is a Maven archetype quick start, which will generate a very basic project structure. So I'll go ahead and just hit enter, and you'll notice here that 15 is the default value. So I'll hit enter here, and the next thing it'll do is it will ask me for a group ID. The group ID should follow the package name structure for your application, which is typically the reverse of the DNS of your website. So if your website is javidjamay.com, you would use com.javidjamay. And we're going to go ahead and create, let's say, a hello world application, so you can even give it a subgroup here, so we can call it .hello. And after that, it'll ask you for an artifact ID. The artifact ID is really the name of the artifact or the generated file that will be executed or deployed for your application. So if you're creating a web application, for example, it would be the name of your WAR file without the extension. So here, I'll go ahead and call this hello world _app, let's say. The next thing it asks us for is a version number. I'll go ahead and leave the default here, and the package structure, which you'll notice that the default that it generated for us here is equivalent to the group ID that we defined. So again, I'll go ahead and take the default here, and then it asks me to confirm whether this information is correct, and I'll go ahead and say yes. And it says that it generated a project structure for me. Now, mine ran pretty fast. Yours might take a little while because it might have to go and download several things from the web the first time that you execute the Maven archetype generate command. The next thing will want to do is take a look at what was generated. So I'll go ahead and pull up my Windows Explorer here. I'm running on Windows, and if I look in my home directory, I'll see that it generated a directory called hello world underscore app, which was equivalent to the artifact ID that I defined. If I expand the structure a little bit, you'll see that there's two main directory structures here. There's I have hello world app, and directly under there I have source, and under source I have a main directory and I have a test directory. And under the main and test directories, you'll notice that the directory structure is very similar. It's identical actually. So I have a Java, then com, Java Jame, and hello. If I look inside of the hello directory in the main source path, you'll see that there's a file called app.java. And if I also scroll down here and look in the test directory, you'll see there's a file called apptest.java. So it generated a simple application for me that doesn't do much of anything. Going back to the top level of the Hello World app directory structure, you'll see that there's a file called pom.xml. If I take a look at the contents of the pom.xml file, you'll see that the POM is actually a file that contains the definition for the project. The POM actually stands for Project Object Model, and it contains all the project information for building, reporting, and generating documentation for the project. If we look in here, you'll see it's a standard XML file. It has a schema definition, and you'll see some information in here. The model version represents the version of the project object model that's defined by Maven, and we have the group ID, which I defined when I was running the generator, the artifact ID, which is the name of the artifact that will be generated, packaging, and packaging defines the type of file that is generated when I want to build the application. So in this case, if I built this application, it would generate a jar file. The version, which is the version number we defined in the generator, and that's the version number of the file that would be generated, of the artifact that would be generated. And the name here is the name of the project, and a URL, and these can be updated if I wanted to give better descriptions of these things. And you'll notice a list of what are called dependencies here. In this case, there's only one dependency, and it says that I have a dependency on JUnit 3.8.1 and with a scope of test. And again, we'll take a closer look at this later, but essentially this is saying that I have a dependency on the JUnit jar file, and if I wanted to execute the tests for this project, what it would do is it would go and download the JUnit jar, and it would execute against that jar file. Another thing you'll notice is that there's no directory structures defined in this file, so Maven automatically knows where my source and my test directories are based on conventions. So if we go and look back at the directory structure that we took a look at, Maven automatically knows that under the source directory structure that I have a main and a test structure, and it knows implicitly to go and look in those directories for my code and my tests. So when I want to execute code or execute the tests or generate the package for me, the archive for me, then it knows exactly where to find the code in order to do those things.